If you could adopt in any celebrity to your family, who would it be? Tom Holland? Jesus? Okay, well, okay. Other than Jesus, modern day celebrities, YouTuber, Taylor Swift. Oh, okay, Taylor Swift. All right. The guy who's saying, I'm never gonna give you up. Travis Kelce. All right. Mine would be Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt is hilarious. I just rewatched all the Parks and Rec for like the bajillionth time, and it's so funny. Have you guys seen Parks and Rec, the show? If you've not seen, here is just a snippet of some of his like funny moments. I love Chris Pratt because he's hilarious in anything he's ever been in, and even in his serious roles, I like his like even in like Jurassic Park, he's got like Jurassic World. He's got like some funny moments, but I like him a lot. I like him a lot for his just personality, which seems to shine through in everything that he's in, but also he's a devout Christian. So this is not me endorsing everything he's ever done or said, but he's one of the guys that I feel like is outward about his faith in a world that is very scared and shy to do so. So this was him winning an award several years ago, and this is really the main reason why I would like to adopt Chris Pratt into my family if I could. So, Chris Pratt, everybody. Yeah. That's who I would want to adopt into my family if I had to adopt a celebrity into my family. So seems like a pretty cool guy. He seems like the kind of guy you could just have a pizza with and then chat about life. But all throughout this series, we've been talking about this weird dynamic of family. And for some of you, this has been a touchy subject, I'm sure, because your family doesn't look like you feel like other families look. Or maybe you feel like it's not the way that it's supposed to be. And so this topic can seem a little bit like this does not apply to me. It doesn't make me feel real great. And so maybe you just that's what you felt for the last several weeks, is that you don't have the kind of family that everybody else has. Maybe you go over to a friend's house and you spend time with their family, or you're at school and some kid forgets their lunch and their mom comes and brings it back, and you're like, wow, my family wouldn't do that. They just say, tough luck, kid, don't forget your lunch, right? Or whatever it is. Maybe you look at everybody else's family and you think, that's not what my family looks like. You don't have the kind of family that everybody else has. And for others of you, maybe you struggle with this whole series because the family you have isn't the family that you want, right? Maybe you're like, man, if Chris Pratt were my dad, then I'd have the family that I want, right? Or if I could just, connect better, or if my family wasn't so weird and embarrassed me everywhere I go, right? But I don't have the family that I want. When you look at your family, maybe this is a tension that you struggle with. Or maybe your family is just dealing with secrets that you know that other people shouldn't know, but you want to talk about it. And so maybe it's adjusted or affected your view on certain members in your family. It's made you feel not at home when you're at home because of the elephant in the room that nobody seems to be talking about. That could be something going on. Maybe this is tough for you because you don't feel like you have one. Because maybe you've been adopted and that's great and you're in a new family, but you still have questions about your old family and the one that you came from. Whatever it is, sometimes when you feel like you don't have a family, this is a tough subject when we're talking about family. And so that's really only going to continue to lead us to where we're just going to cap off the rest of this series today. And whatever reason you feel like maybe you're struggling with this whole topic on family and the people that you're stuck together with in life, maybe this is just the tension for many of you, that family doesn't look the way that you thought it would look, right? Don't raise your hands, but I know for many of us, we look at our families and we go, wow, my family is not anything like I thought it would look by the time I was this age. And that can be a tough pill to swallow. That can be difficult to know, how am I supposed to function in this world and as my role in my family when my family looks nothing like I thought it would. That's what we're really going to talk about a lot today. The reality is you are not the only one that wrestles with this tension. Because as Chris Pratt said in that video, nobody's perfect. That means there's going to be people close to you, friends and family, that fail you, that hurt you. Nobody's perfect. And so So how do we deal with that, right? There's people at this church who are not perfect. And sometimes people at church will hurt you. And you're not the only one. Family is a struggle for many people because we live in an imperfect world with imperfect people and imperfect families that don't always look the way that we want them to look. You're not the only one who maybe has felt this way, feels that way currently, or will feel this way in your lifetime. In the Bible, there's actually a story about two guys who are dealing with some pretty complicated family situations, to say the least. And that was David and Jonathan. Okay? David is the person who became king after Saul. He's the same David who slayed Goliath. He was a great king of Israel. He was known after man after God's own heart. And Jonathan was his best friend. Jonathan also was the son of Saul, Israel's first king, the one that David was anointed in order to replace, because Saul was not doing a fantastic job at leading the kingdom. And at first, David and Saul, we talked about this several weeks ago in our last series. You remember our last series where we talked about comparison and jealousy? We talked about Saul and his dynamic with David a lot in that series. And if you remember from that a few weeks ago, Saul actually liked David at first. David made Saul look good because David would go and conquer their enemies, and Saul would get all the credit because he was king. Until David became more popular, and then Saul became jealous of David. And then their relationship kind of hit some rocky ground because then Saul kind of tried to kill David several times. Well, David, he came from a complicated family background, right? He came from a family where he was the youngest, and also nobody really counted him as part of the family, right? He was the shepherd boy they'd send out into the field. When Samuel came, the prophet, to anoint the next king of Israel, Jesse, his father, brought all his sons out and showed them to Samuel. And Samuel was like, no, do you have any other sons? And Jesse was like, no, I don't have any other. Oh, well, actually, I do have one other. He's out in the field, though. He doesn't really count. And Samuel was like, bring him in. And that was the one he anointed as king. So David was kind of estranged from his own family. There's a lot of context we could go to into that. But basically what you need to know is that his family relationships were pretty complicated. And after he went in to fight for King Saul and his army, he lived away from his family. He actually lived, I believe, in Saul's household. And so he was close with Jonathan. They became best friends. And then when Saul tried to kill David, it was like his second family trying to then disown him. And then Jonathan, obviously not a huge fan of Dad right now because Dad's going around trying to kill my best friend. So can you imagine that? You have your best friend over. You're gonna spend the night. You're gonna hang out, and your dad's like, "What's up?" and pulls out like this sword, and he's like, "You'll go out back for a second." You're like, "Run!" You're like, your dad's just trying to kill your best friend. That'd be like a nightmare, right? That'd be a horror movie. Somebody should write that horror movie, but based off the Bible. No, but this was the relationship. So Jonathan, he ends up like helping David, right? He goes out into the field and warns David about Saul's plans so that David could flee and go where he needed to go. There's the ping pong ball, and so. This was the dynamic of Jonathan and David. They were best friends. They looked out for each other. And check out what 1 Samuel 23:16 says. It says, Jonathan went to find David and encourage him to stay strong in his faith in God. Right? When David was being pursued by Saul, when David, his life was at stake, Jonathan, who technically should have been the next king of Israel, right? Because he was the son of King Saul. He put his own desires aside. He didn't allow his own feelings about that situation to conflict with his relationship with his best friend. In fact, he laid down his desires. He submitted to God's plan, believing that David was anointed to be the next king of Israel. And Jonathan looked out for David. Most importantly, you need a best friend who does this, who encourages you and finds you when you're struggling and encourages you to stay strong. You need a friend like that. And the writer of this, actually, he describes a few chapters earlier what their friendship was like. He says, and Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself. Right? These are the kind of friendships you need. Friends that will love you more than they love themselves. Friends that will encourage you and find you in your darkest moments and build you up and push you towards God. Right? You need people that will be in your corner, that will be on your side, who will fight for you, who will pray for you, who will be a loving word of advice to you, even maybe sometimes if that's what you don't want to hear. That is what friendship is. And that's the example that we see in Scripture with David and Jonathan. Sometimes friends are more like family. Right? I had a best friend growing up. His name was Kyle. And we'd known each other since we were 4 in preschool. Right? And so we'd grown up together in the same small school, went to the same church. We were in the same small group growing up. We did everything together. And in fact, when we were in high school, I would probably hang out at his house every single weekend. Like, we both worked at Chick-fil-A at that time, too. So we'd work at Chick-fil-A, especially if it was the weekend, and we had to close, and we had to bring home the stuff that they couldn't sell anymore. So we'd just snack on a bunch of Chick-fil-A, watch horror movies, or play guitar, or ping pong, or pool, or ride around on four-wheelers, and we had a ton of fun together. His family was kind of like my family. I went on a couple vacations with them as well. And so, like, we just spent a lot of time together. We did, all our high school formals together with our group of friends. We were like family. And the reality is sometimes, like, I had a good family. Like, my own family, too, was good. His family was good. But our families also were like family. And so the joke was, like, that his parents were my second parents a lot of times because I spent so much time over at their house. Sometimes friends are more like family. And so when you feel like you don't have a family to depend on, do you have people in your life that are like family, that you can go to like you could family, that care for you like family, right? Sometimes friends are more like family. You need people that will be there for you when the big stuff happens to celebrate you and to encourage you. You need people that are going to be there for you in the difficult times to catch you and be a support for you when you can't support yourself. You need people who are going to say the true things to you even when it's difficult and when you don't want to hear them. You're going to need people in your life who treat you like family when you treat them like garbage. You need people who are in your corner and most importantly, push you towards the God who loves you. You need people like that in your life. And sometimes friends are more like family in that role. So maybe you have been here this whole series, and as we've been talking about the family issues and the people that you're stuck together with in life, and maybe you're like, this is all great stuff, but I don't have any beefs with my family. I love my family. We get along fine. I don't really have any issues. That's great. I want you this week to find a way to show them that you appreciate them. Show them somehow that you appreciate your family. Maybe you're sitting here thinking like, wow, I wish that I had people in my life that could be like family outside of my family. Then I would encourage you to invite more people into your family, right? Bring people along to just do what you're doing in life. Seek out a relationship with other people, right? It can be really easy, especially for us introverts, to kind of, shy into ourselves and not really get out of our comfort zone. But sometimes life requires us to step out of our comfort zone, put ourselves out there, risk all the embarrassment, risk, being rejected, risk all of that, risk vulnerability for the sake of building relationships with people. And having people in your corner that you've built relationships with over time, that can be priceless. So invite more people into your family, right? I want you to choose one person that you know could be like family, include them in more parts of your life. Include them in your decision making, even if it's just like, you feel awkward inviting someone over to your house or to do something together. You can say, hey, can I run something by you? And just open up, right? It should be somebody that you trust, obviously, but choose someone that you can be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm wrestling with. These are my thoughts on it. What's your take? And just allow people who love Jesus, who could be like family to you, to speak truth into your life, right? Bring people along for the ride just to know what's going through your mind. Because often if we just suffer silently, then the stuff that's going through our mind is unchecked and unbalanced against what's actually true. Because our hearts and our minds will deceive us. Okay? Sometimes friends are more like family. So as you guys get ready to go to your small group and kind of finish off this discussion together, but also finish out the series together, I want you to just think about this question, okay? Who is a friend in your life who is more like family? Who is a friend in your life that is more like family? If you have an answer to that or several answers, picture that person. If you don't have an answer to that question, I'd encourage you to picture someone who could fill that role for you. And then take some intentional steps to bring them more into your life, be a part of the things that you're already doing in your life, or how you can join in what they're doing in their life, right? Who's a friend in your life who is more like family, right? It's important for us to have these people who, like I mentioned, who are there for you through thick and thin, no matter what, right? Here's the reality about life. We're all going to go through difficult times. Now, a mistake a lot of people make is they assume, oh, I'm good. And then they go through some difficult times and they realize who their friends are, or more likely, who their friends aren't. And then they don't know who to turn to. And it's incredibly lonely, and it makes going through a hard time that much harder, right? But if you build into your community and build in relationships and friendships, maybe it's your small group, maybe it's other friends that you have, but build into people who can be like family so that when the tough times hit, you have those people already in place. You have a support system in place. Now, God will use any situation. And so he can use hard times to be the opportunity for you to build that community of people who can be your support, even if you didn't have it prior. But if you're not going through anything tough now, if there's anything you take away from this series or today's lesson, I want it to be this. Find people who can be like family to you, outside of your family, who can be a support system, who can be there to help you and give you more perspective and encouragement when things go south. Because things will once in a while. It's not something to be afraid of. It's just a reality to keep in mind and to trust that God has all things in his hands. So, who is someone in your life who can be like family? Think about that question. I'm going to pray. You guys will finish out this discussion in small groups, and then we will be done for the day.